right, everybody, what's going on? And welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk, the show we cover the SWAC inside and out. I'm your tour guide around the SWAC, C Wells, coming at you. And we are going to recap a crazy week of action. Week 7 is in the books. 5 games were on the schedule. FAMU and Jackson State were off, getting ready for their big game coming up on Saturday. So we had five, six, 5/6 of the SWAC games going on. So it was an entertaining game. Had a Friday night game, had overtime at the end of the night. It was a lot going on, man. So, I'm a little bit exhausted, but we're going to go ahead and make this thing happen. So, y'all make sure y'all get down with the Pick'em contest. The week 8 Pick'em link is live now. It will be in the description. There's a pinned tweet on my Twitter account. Swag Talk 76, I don't know why I froze there, is also on my Instagram and Facebook, which are both Swag Talk. So if you want to get down, you can go with that. Right now, I think we have a tie for first place between I think it's Kai Law and the big soldier, Jamie G, with 46 points. I'm gonna try to do a little leaderboard a little bit later, but it's been an entertaining contest so far. So y'all keep it locked. You can still play. If you want to get in, hit that link. It's up it usually go up every Sunday morning. So it's up now. It's live. So you want to get down with that. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment, and hit that notification bell so you can be alerted to anytime we drop video. Like I said, we've been doing lives after the games now on Saturday. We don't do it every Saturday, but we do it. We've done it 3 or 4, well, maybe 4 or 5 times at this point. So if you hit that notification bell, you get that alert when that video drops. So you can get in on the live and get in on the comments and whatever other foolishness take place on that show. It's a kind of a even more looser version of Swag Smoke because we kind of coming down from the end of the night. Sometimes you get a night like last night where it's not much analysis and just a lot of jokes and fun. And then sometimes you get what we call therapy time, where you get a chance to kind of recoup from the loss and get things off your chest. So it's a fun little show. Y'all make sure y'all keep checking it out. We probably won't do one this week. Homecoming at Southern, so I'll most likely be tied up for the bulk of the evening. But and JSU FAMU, so everybody probably gonna be tied up. But we'll probably do one the following week. But keep it locked here, and you'll find out that info. Other than that, man, let's go ahead and jump into this recap. We'll start off with the Friday night game. Big victory for the Golden Lions, 21-17. I thought this was a game that would be a close game. I thought I had Prairie View winning this game. I think I said like 27-20 or something like that. And Prairie View jumped out early with a touchdown early. Well, they got a safety and a touchdown early in the first quarter, and it looked like they were gonna run away with this thing. And then Pine Bluff was able to get on the board, and they were able to, put a couple points on the board, and it looked like by the half, this would be an offensive game. It looked like neither defense was going to be able to make anything happen, and the halftime score was 21-14, and it seemed like it was going to be, like I said, a game that was going to be back and forth. But in the second half, only 3 points were scored between the two teams, and other than that, nothing of note really happened. Just to kind of go through the scoring plays, Prairie View, like I said, they got a safety early due to a bad snap on a punt by Pine Bluff. Panthers led 2-0 with 13:55 left in the first quarter. 11-17 in the first quarter. Jeremiah Ratliff caught a 16-yard pass from Jaden Johnson. Conversion was no good. Panthers led 8-0 at that point. And then Giovanni Gibson would catch a 59-yard pass from Mekhi Higgins to put the Golden Lions on the board, and they trailed at that point 8-7. After that, BJ Curry had an 8-yard run for the Golden Lions, extra point good, 14-8. And then with 2:47 left in the second quarter, Gorilla Mode Garcia Rodriguez would kick a 50-yard field goal for Prairie View to put the Panthers behind 14-11. And then BJ Curry would get a 10-yard touchdown run for Pine Bluff with 120 left in the first half to put the Golden Lions up 21-11. And then Garcia Rodriguez would get another field goal from 54 yards out right at the half to send the Panthers into the locker room trailing 21-14. After basically a scoreless third quarter up until the 2:09 mark when Rodriguez would kick a 49-yard field goal to make the score 21-17. And then after that, nothing of note really happened. Just kind of taking a look at the drive charts for both teams in the second half. Like I said, Prairie View, they got the opening kick in the third quarter. Drove to Pine Bluff's 42, and they punted. Then they got the ball at their 46 when Pine Bluff turned it over on downs. Drove to the Pine Bluff 32, and got a field goal there. Then in the fourth quarter, Prairie View got the ball on their 9-yard line. Drove, didn't do anything, threw an interception. Then Prairie View got the ball at their own 25, and they had they punted, didn't do anything after they lost 2 yards, went to their 23 and punted. Their best drive probably of the second half was their next to last drive. They got the ball at their 15. They drove down to the Pine Bluff 43, going 10 plays and 42 yards, and they ended up turning over on downs. And then their last drive came. It started at their 10-yard line, and they drove to their 34 and turned the ball over on downs. Looking at Pine Bluff, similar situation in the second half. Their first third quarter possession, they got the ball at the Prairie View 46 to turn the ball over on. They got the ball at their 10 and turn it over on downs at the Prairie View 46. Get the ball back on their 30. After Prairie View kicked the field goal, and they drove down to the Prairie View 38 and ended up punting. They got the ball at the Prairie View 48 after the interception, and they drove to, and they lost 10 yards to their 42 and ended up punting. They got the ball at their 28 after a Prairie View punt, lost 1 yard and had to punt. And then they got the ball at their 43 and drove down to the Prairie View 10 where they turned the ball over on downs. So second half was just a slog for both teams. Neither team could get anything going. And defensively, both defenses kind of stood up in the second half. And Pine Bluff picked up their first home conference win in that is gonna be a tough out. I don't know, I don't know how good they're gonna be. I think they still have some issues to work out. But if their defense can can not lose anybody else, because they're really thin right now on defense. If they can avoid any more injuries and the offense can continue to grow, they're gonna be at least a team that can play spoiler toward the end of the season. So definitely look out for Pine Bluff. Prairie View. They're basically on the mat now. They haven't been counted out, but they're on the mat now, and they need a lot of help to be able to get back into the race. And they have a tough slate still ahead of them. They still have FAMU on the docket. They still have Alcorn. They still have Bama State. So they still have some tough games ahead of them toward the end of the season. So they're down, not quite out, but they're down, and they're hanging on by a thread. Panthers 20 first downs, Golden Lions 18. Prairie View still struggling to run the ball. They finished with 97 yards on the night. 3.3 yards per carry on 32 attempts. Pine Bluff 115 yards rushing on 35 carries, 3.3 yards per attempt and 2 touchdowns. 268 through the air for the Panthers, 25 of 38, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Pine Bluff 250 through the air, 14 of 26, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. 365 yards for both teams. 70 plays for Prairie View, 61 for Pine Bluff. That equals to a 5.2 yard per play average for the Panthers, and 6 yard per play average for the Golden Lions. Both teams Had fumbles. Purview fumbled twice. They didn't lose either one. Pine Bluff fumbled once. Didn't lose it. Penalties. Purview 7 for 76. Pine Bluff 4 for 40. Panthers 34.2 yard per punt average. Golden Lions 39.8. Prairie View 5 of 14 on third down, 0 for 2 on fourth down. They were 1 for 1 in the red zone. They had 2 sacks. 3 of 11 in the red. Three of 11 on third down for Pine Bluff. 0 for 2 on fourth down. 2 for 3 in the red zone, and they had 1 sack. Individually, Jaden Johnson 25 of 37, 268 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 1 sack. Makai Higgins 14 of 26, 250 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 2 sacks. Lamaje McDowell, 4 carries for 38 yards for Prairie View. Also, Connor Wisham, 8 for 33 for the Panthers. BJ Curry had 14 carries for 46 yards and 2 touchdowns for Pine Bluff. Zamarion Weber, 9 for 44 for the Golden Lions. Receiving, Trajan Spiller, 3 for 46 for Prairie View. Also, Chris Heron, 2 for 41. Jason Medlock, 4 for 38. Giovanni Gibson led Pine Bluff with 9 catches for 183 yards and 1 touchdown. Christian Gamage, 4 for 60. Defensively, Bryce Turner led Prairie View with 6 tackles. Aiden Jones and Davier Farrow, they each had 1.5 tackles for loss. Jamal Marshall led the team with 1 sack, an interception, none. Pine Bluff was led by Marcus Jones Jr. with 13 tackles. Mike Riley had 1.5 tackles for loss, and Riley and Guan each had a half a sack. Interception went to Lindo. So big, like I say, big win for the Golden Lions. They needed this win. I think this is a good momentum boost. It's a good positivity boost, and they're gonna be able to start to reap the benefits of some of this work that they're putting in. I think their depth will continue to be tested as the season moves forward because they're already very thin in the secondary. They can't afford to lose anybody else in those games, and they're going to have to be careful with games that are more physical games where they wear down. So they're all, I think this was a good win for them because the defense really got the job done in this game more than the offense did. So that was something that they needed. They needed a good defensive outing, and they got it. Prairie View still having the same issue that they've had for the bulk of the season, and now it's back to the drawing board for them. They have a bye week to kind of work some things out. Next up is Bethune-Cookman taking the trip to Huntsville to take on the Bulldogs at Alabama A&M. A&M jumped on Bethune-Cookman and basically knocked them out the box in the second quarter. Big victory for Alabama A&M, 56-12. A 21-point second quarter was the difference in this game. It was only 7-0 after the first quarter, so that was a possibility that Bethune-Cookman would be able to hang around in this game, but second quarter that was over and done with. Xavier Langford had a 2-yard run in the first quarter to put the Bulldogs on the board. That came with 11:31 in the first, 7-0. Langford will get a 1-yard touchdown run with 12:01 left in the second quarter. That kept an 13 play, 94-yard drive. They dominated time possession in this game, 14-0. Cam Ransom will get the Wildcats on the board with a 15-yard run with 7:05 left in the first half. Conversion no good, 14-6. The Quadrant Welch will get a 44-yard pass from Langford. Extra point good, 21-6. Donovan Eaglin, 30-yard run for the Bulldogs, 28-6. And that will be our halftime score. Christian Anderson will get on the board for the Bulldogs to make the score 35-6. Johnny Harris will get a 91-yard pick six for Bethune-Cookman. Conversion no good, 35-12. Langford 4-yard run for the Bulldogs, 42-12. That came with 130 in the third, and 13:03 in the fourth. Ryan Morrow 2-yard run, extra point good, 49-12. And then Cornelius Brown 7-yard run for the Bulldogs, came with 9:36 left in the game, 56-12. And they had a successful homecoming. Bethune-Cookman still having a lot of issues. They really can't work. They really can't get right now. Um, and nothing's working for them. But a big game for A&M. They got their revenge for losing to Bethune-Cookman last season, and they did it the same way Bethune-Cookman did it to them. Um, Huge offensive game for Alabama A&M, and this was the kind of game they needed against an FCS opponent, a conference opponent. They needed a game like this. Bethune-Cookman 10 first downs on the night, A&M 30, 74 yards rushing for the Wildcats, 25 carries, 3 yards per carry, 1 touchdown, 331 on the ground for Alabama A&M, 50 carries, 6.6 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns. 107 through the air for Bethune-Cookman, 12 of 27, no touchdowns, no interceptions. 370 through the air for Alabama A&M, 18 of 29, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. 181 yards of total offense for the Wildcats, 52 plays, 3.5 yards per play. They fumbled once and lost it. They had 9 penalties for 69 yards. 701 yards of offense for Alabama A&M. 79 plays, 8.9 yards per play. They did fumble 3 times. They didn't lose any, and they had 4 penalties for 27 yards. Bulldogs averaged 33 point. They averaged 23 yards per punt on 2 punts. Bethune-Cookman 39.9 yards per punt on 7 punts. Wildcats 5 of 14 on third down, 0 for 2 on fourth down, 1 for 2 in the red zone, and they had 2 sacks. Alabama A&M dominated time of possession, 36 minutes and 48 seconds to 23 minutes and 12 seconds. 8 of 12 on third down, 1 for 1 on fourth down, 6 or 7 in the red zone. They had 3 sacks. This was a thorough, complete whooping. Like this is the kind of game that you really look for. And they needed this, and they got it. This was very thorough, just solid, solid whooping. I mean, there's no other way to sugarcoat it. Cam Ransom had 10 completions on 23 attempts, 105 yards, no touchdown, no interceptions, 3 sacks. Michael Bowens was 2 for 4 for 2 yards for Bethune-Cookman. Xavier Langford, 15 of 24 for 315 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 1 sack. Cornelius Brown, 2 for 4 for 52 yards. And Avion Smith, 1 for 1 for 3 yards for the Bulldogs. He did get sacked once. Dennis Palmer had 9 carries for Bethune-Cookman for 35 yards. Bowens, 3 for 20. Donovan Eaglin, 13 carries, 125 yards, and 1 touchdown. Big breakout game for him. He needed that. He needed this game really badly. Ryan Morrow, 10 for 83 and a touchdown. Langford, 15 for 73 and 3 touchdowns. Kevin Washington led Bethune-Cookman with 1 catch for 27 yards. Dennis Palmer had 2 catches for 26 yards. Lorenzo Jenkins, 3 for 21. Keenan Hambrick, 4 catches, 111 yards for the Bulldogs. Barry White, 4 for 90. Welch, 3 for 61 and a touchdown. Jacoby Hewitt, 2 for 52. Bethune-Cookman was led by Antoine Watts with 10 tackles. Rawls, Miller, and Don Willis each had 1 tackle for loss. He returned for a touchdown. Caleb Dawson led the Bulldogs with 6 tackles. Gilmore and Andrews each had 1.5 tackles for loss. Sacks went to Bakayoko, Andrews, and Wesley. So, like I said, this A&M, they had a really great second half against Jackson State last week. Came out this week, blew the game open in the second quarter, and never looked back. And that's the kind of game that you need. When you haven't had a lot of great games against FCS opponents, you need a game like this, and they got it. And they took care of business. Bethune-Cookman, back to the drawing board. Their first win is going to have to wait a little bit longer, and we'll see where they go from here. A&M does have a bye week. Traditionally, they're the traditional bye week before the Magic City Classic. And speaking of their opponents in the Magic City Classic coming up in 2 weeks, Alabama State, 54 points, 54-17 over Valley. Valley actually jumped out on Bama State 14-0 before the Hornets kind of started to get some things going. And Ultimately, just like A&M, a 21-point second quarter was the difference in this game. Valley, like I said, they jumped up 14-0. Tajarian Williams had a 1 yard run for a touchdown. That was up 7-0. Jackson Davis, that's the guy on Thursday. I was like, where is he? He showed up today with a 28-yard touchdown pass from Williams. Valley led 14-0 early in the first quarter. Um, that's one of those situations where you kind of feel like maybe Valley, is gonna really cause some things to happen, but they ultimately started to fade, and Bama State would get on the board when Dylan Creech would catch a 21-yard pass from Kareem Key. Um, That made it score 14-6. Daquan Kinsey would get a 1 yard run, extra point good. That came with 15 seconds left in the first quarter. Hornets trail 14-13. Marco Josevic would get a 43-yard field goal for Valley. The Devils led 17-13. That would be their final lead of the game. That would actually be the final points that they scored this game. Robert McMahon, 84-yard pass from Key, 2017. Holesclaw, 26-yard run, 27-17. McMahon again, 38-yard pass. That came with 117 left in the second quarter. Extra point good, 34-17, which was our halftime score. Uh, Jimmy Haywood would catch a 4-yard touchdown pass from Key, 41-17. Gilliam, 24-yard field goal for the Hornets, 44-17. And then Gilliam would get a 32-yard field goal at the beginning of the fourth quarter, which made the score 47-17. And then Keen Lewis would get a 26-yard punt return for Alabama State to make the score 54-17. Nice response for the Hornets as Valley kind of gave them a little bit of work early, but they took their punch and they rolled with it. 10 first downs for Valley, 18 for Bama State. 50 yards rushing for Valley, 39 carries, 1.3 yards per carry, one touchdown. 124 yards on the ground for the Hornets, 34 carries, 3.6 yards per carry, and two touchdowns. 108 through the air for Valley, 13 or 20, one touchdown, one interception. Uh, 335 yards passing for Bama State. Big game through the air for them. 15 of 23, four touchdowns, no interceptions. 158 yards of total offense for Valley, 59 plays, 2.7 yards per play. And they fumbled three times but didn't lose any. They had two penalties for 13 yards. Bama State, 459 yards of offense in this game. 57 plays, 8.1 yards per play, 3 fumbles, they lost one. They had seven penalties for 55 yards, 33-yard average for Valley on 8 punts, 44.5-yard average for Bama State on 2 punts. 3 of 15 on third down for Valley, 1 or 2 on fourth down, and 1 for 1 in the red zone. They didn't have a sack. Bama State, 6 of 12 on third down, 0 for 2 on fourth down, 4 or 5 in the red zone, and they had 4 sacks. Individually, Williams, 13 of 20 for Valley, 108 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, sacked 4 times. Key, 14 of 21 for 326 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks. Sims, 1 for 2 for 9 yards. Valley was led in rushing by Jacoby Thomas with 9 carries for 26 yards. Williams, 17 carries for 14 yards and 1 touchdown. Holesclaw led Bama State with 8 carries for 54 yards and a touchdown. Bozeman, 4 for 35. And Kinsey, 9 for 26 and a touchdown. Jackson Davis led Valley with 3 catches for 62 yards and a touchdown. Ross, 5 for 23. McMahon, big game for him. 2 catches, 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. Holesclaw, 3 for 44. Horn, 2 for 42. Harrell, 1 for 26. Valley was led by Dante Reed with 9 tackles. He also had 2 tackles lost to lead the defense. And that's it for Valley. Bama State was led by Rico Dozier and Traquan Thomas. Both had 11 tackles. Thomas, 3.5 tackles for loss to lead the team and 2 sacks. That should be defensive player of the week. I hadn't looked at the last 2 games, but That's a very, very dominant stat line for Traquan Thomas. So big game for him. Um, Definitely big game for him. And James Burgess had an interception. So Bama State, after a kind of a surprising quick start for Valley, um, the Hornets were able to take that punch and roll with it and take care of business from now on out. Um, this was a much needed offensive explosion for Bama State. I mean, the win was what it was. You know, that win was gonna be what it was gonna be, pretty much no matter what. But I never thought Bama State could score 54 points in a game. So to have them be able to put that kind of point total on the board, um, with the passing game at that, is definitely kind of a change, and it's a welcome surprise for them. So hopefully they're starting to find some things in that offense. You know, they're starting to find a passing game. They have a bye week before they play Alabama A&M in the Magic City Classic. So this gives them an opportunity to kind of work some things out, and maybe figure out a long term solution for their quarterback position. And that takes us to our fourth game of the day, which was probably the craziest game of the day. If you remember last year, Southern and Texas Southern faced off. TSU was up by like 10 with like 6 minutes or so to go in the game, ended up losing in overtime. This year they were up by 7 with a minute and really, up by 7 with like a minute and 11 seconds or so to go, with just need to run out the clock and go home. And they had another strange situation take place, and they lose this game in overtime. So right now, TSU just cannot. They just cannot get out of their own way against Southern at the end of games. Um, Mental mistakes, a horrible punt, just some questionable coaching decisions really did TSU in. But I really think this was a game that both defenses really showed up to play. This game, honestly, was a defensive game more than anything. I think neither offense really did a lot. I think Southern's offense did more in the second half. TSU's offense didn't do a lot in the first half, but they were able to take advantage of a short field and get a touchdown in the first half. And that kind of gave them some momentum, but they never really got anything going offensively pretty much all night. Um, they did, they did try to do some things differently this week. Jace Wilson got the start, but it still didn't really amount to a lot. TSU would get on the board first with 6:53 left in the second quarter, as Mark MJ Henson had an 18-yard pick six, put the Tigers up 7-0. With 45 seconds left in the second quarter after a Southern fumble, Trenton Leary would get a 28-yard touchdown run for Texas Southern, scored 14-0 going into the half. One key play right at the half, Southern basically threw a Hail Mary. The receiver got open and dropped the ball, falling into the end zone. That could have been an even bigger difference maker in this game, but Southern went into the half down 14-0. Third quarter, Southern really had their best quarter of the game. They scored 12 points in this quarter. 3 successful drives, 12-21 left in the third. They got a Josh Griffin 26-yard field goal, 14-3. 6:27 left in the third. They got a 40-yard field goal from Griffin. It made the score 14-6. And then with 50 seconds left in the third quarter, Kendrick Grimes got a 6-yard touchdown. 2-point conversion, no good. 14-12. And that was a 13-play, 73-yard drive that was aided by a roughing the punter penalty on TSU. That would probably be the best drive that either team had all game long in terms of a sustained drive. Southern probably, they had the better production in terms of drives in this game. They had an 8-play, 57-yard drive. They had a 9-play, 49-yard drive. TSU did have a solid drive in the beginning of the fourth quarter, which was an 8-play, 59-yard drive that led to a Avalar field goal, which made the score 17-12. And then TSU would get a safety on Noah Biden with 126 left in the game. That made the score 19-12. And then that's kind of when all heck broke loose. TSU let the free kick roll, ended up picking it up inside the 5, and didn't get good field position on that play, and that put them to start their final possession at their own 13-yard line. So they were in the hole. They needed to run the clock out, and they had basically successfully did that. Got the fourth down. Um, I kind of feel like hindsight 2020 in situations like this, but I kind of feel like you take the safety there, and your defense is playing well. I don't know if Southern had if they still had any mojo left to kind of move the ball, you know, a long distance with very little time, because it was only like 18 seconds or so when that botch punt happened. I don't know if Southern was going to be able to do much in that time period with no timeouts. And then you win by 5 instead of having what happened. The punt was just not a good punt at all. Southern ended up getting the ball at TSU 16, and on one play later, Quay Davis catches a 16-yard pass from Noah Biden. Extra point good. We're tied at 19 going into overtime now. Overtime, TSU didn't do anything. Had a big drop on second down that could have led to a touchdown. At the very least, could have been a first down to extend that drive. That was a drop. Third down, Southern dropped the interception, and then TSU missed the field goal. Southern would basically run the ball into position and kick a 34-yard field goal to win the game in overtime. So again, when these two teams hook up, man, it's like crazy. These last 2 seasons have been crazy, crazy endings. TSU could not seal a deal in these kind of games, and they're gonna have to do some searching, man. They have some talent, they do have some injuries, but they have to figure some things out, and they have to kind of figure it out quick, because the time is running out for them to kind of continue to be a factor in this race. Southern 19 first downs, TSU 14, 167 yards rushing for Southern, 41 carries, 4.1 yards per carry, 1 touchdown, 149 yards for TSU on 33 carries, 4.5 yards per carry with 1 touchdown, 187 yards through the air for Southern, 14 of 34, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. TSU 90 yards passing, 13 of 30, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Southern 354 yards of offense, 75 plays, 4.7 yards per play. They fumbled 3 times and lost 2. They had 10 penalties for 114 yards. That continues to be a really sore spot for this team. Turnovers and penalties. Even in their wins, they've been highly penalized and they've had turnovers. So I almost feel like this is what Southern is. And it doesn't sound good. It don't sound acceptable, but you gotta kind of understand that this is probably what Southern's gonna be. They're gonna be a team that typically plays strong defense, and offense is gonna, hopefully, if you're looking at it from a Southern perspective, hopefully make enough plays to win a game for you. I don't think that I don't think you're gonna see an A game from Southern this season. I mean, they haven't. I don't think Southern's played an A game in about 3 or 4 years, to be honest with you. But you win conference games, however you win conference games, and a win is a win, whether it's an inch or a mile. Winning's winning. Quote Dominic Toretto. And this was a win for Southern. TSU 239 yards of offense, 63 plays, 3.8 yards per play. They had 1 fumble, they lost it. 7 penalties for 70 yards. Southern 41.6 yard average on 5 punts. TSU 30.6 yard average on 8 punts. Southern 4 of 15 on third down, 0 for 1 on fourth down. They had 3 of 3 in the red zone, no sacks. TSU 1 of 14 on third down, 0 for 2 on fourth down. So that is a huge reason why they could not sustain anything. Going basically 1 for 16 on conversions is not going to do you any good. They had 1 for 1 in the red zone, and they had 1 sack. on the night, which was the one that led to the fumble. Individually, Biden 13 of 32, 181 yards, one touchdown, no interceptions, no sacks. T-Set came back from his injury, 1 for 2, 6 yards, pick six, sweet thrown, and one sack. Jace Wilson, 13 of 30 for TSU, 90 yards, no touchdown, no interceptions, no sacks. Jordan Davis did get 3 or 4 snaps in this game, but every one of them was like this jet sweep they decided they wanted to run. I don't know if they were setting up for something else, but he didn't get any real action when he did come on the field. C.J. Russell led Southern with 10 carries for 55 yards. Dylan 11 for 51. Rhymes 9 for 37 and a touchdown. Alton Renfro, a guy who I hadn't really seen a lot from, had 11 carries for 49 yards for TSU. Was a nice spark plug for them for a while, but just couldn't really get a lot going there. Trenton Leary, 2 for 30 and a touchdown. Wilson had 6 for 27 on the night. Kendrick Rhymes had 1 catch for 37 yards for Southern. Cam Jefferson, 3 for 37. Quay Davis, 3 for 35 and a touchdown. Also Kirkwood, 2 for 32. And Fuller, 3 for 31. So they really spread the ball around. Everybody's pretty even, and that's pretty much what Southern's offense is going to be. You spread the ball around a lot of backs, you spread the ball around to a lot of receivers and tight ends, and you see what happens. Trenton Leary had 7 catches for TSU for 59 yards, and after that, nobody else had more than 1 reception on the night. Not a lot there in the pass game for TSU. Vince Page, 11 tackles for Southern. Kelby Givens had 2 tackles for loss. For Southern, really disruptive. No sacks or no interceptions for Southern. TSU was led by Umar Yarrow with 11 tackles on the night. Javis Williams also had 10 tackles. Williams, Darrensburg, Booker, and Cox each had 1 tackle for loss apiece. Sack went to Williams, and he had finished with 3 forced fumbles. So big night for him. Interception was by Henson, which he returned for a touchdown. But like I said, TSU just cannot close out these games against Southern. It's like no matter what they do, they still end up dropping these games, and they really have to kind of figure out. And this was under 2 different coaching staffs, so you can't even say it's the same staff. There's not even a lot of the same guys that were out there. It just they just anything that can go wrong is going wrong for them in this matchup. They also are going into a bye week, and this is a rough way to go into a bye week. But you have to try to figure some things out on the other side. And our final game of the day was another low-scoring affair. Alcorn gets the win over Grambling in the hole, I think the first time in 18 games. So big win for them because, Alcorn typically doesn't win in the hole regardless of what kind of team they come in there with. But they led this game basically for a good stretch of this game until the 4th quarter when Grambling took the lead, and then Alcorn would win it at the end. Jacorian Sewell will get Alcorn on the board with a 63-yard touchdown run. That came with 6:21 left in the first quarter. Braves were up 7-0 after the extra point. Reed Harradine had a 30-yard field goal for Grambling. That came with 1:58 in the first quarter, 7-3. He would get a 22-yard field goal with 10:53 left in the second quarter to get the Tigers a 1-point deficit at 7-6. Vaughn would throw a 73-yard pass to Edwards, 14-6 after the extra point. And that would be our halftime score. And it would be 14-6 till 38 seconds left in the third quarter when Dedrick Talbert would get a 3-yard run for Grambling conversion, no good. That did cap a 12-play, 63-yard drive. They took 5:25 off the clock. Grambling trailed 14-12 at that time. Harradine would get his 3rd field goal of the night, this time from 44 yards out with 10:58 left in the game. And that would give Grambling their first lead at 15-14. And then Alcorn will go 10 plays and 52 yards and 10 plays, taking 3:19 off the clock to score with 7 seconds left. Noah Kiani kicks a field goal from 27 yards out. Braves win 17-15. Um, not a great offensive game by any stretch, but Alcorn was able to get in and get out with a win. 17 first downs for the Braves, 16 for Grambling, 157 yards, 156 yards for Alcorn on the ground, 34 carries, 4.6 yards per carry, one touchdown. 157 on the ground for Grambling, 43 carries, 3.7 yards per carry, and one touchdown. 179 yards passing for Alcorn, 14 of 24, one touchdown, one interception. They did have a huge touchdown pass called back because ineligible man downfield. That could have been a big difference maker in this game, but ultimately it didn't matter. 149 through the air for Grambling, 16 of 28, no touchdowns, one interception. 335 through the air. 335 total offense for Alcorn, 58 plays, 5.8 yards per play. They fumbled 4 times and lost one. They had 8 penalties for 75 yards. Grambling 306 total offense, 71 plays, 4.3 yards per play. They fumbled twice, lost one. They had 7 penalties for 80 yards. Alcorn 40.5 yards per punt. Grambling 37.8. Alcorn 6 of 14 on third down. They didn't attempt a fourth down. They 1 for 2 in the red zone, and they had 4 sacks. 7 of 18 for Grambling on third down, 1 for 2 on fourth down. They hit with 3 or 4 in the red zone, and they had 2 sacks individually. Vaughn 10 of 18 for 149 yards, one touchdown, one interception, 2 sacks, making 4 for 6 for 30 yards. Miles Crawley, 16 of 28 for 149 yards, no touchdowns, one interception. He was sacked 4 times. Sewell led Alcorn with 13 carries for 102 yards and one touchdown. Vaughn, 9 for 15. Bradford led Grambling with 12 carries for 58 yards. Talbot, 11 for 52 and a touchdown. Also, Hargrove, 9 for 50. Receiving Edwards 1 for 73 for Alcorn and a touchdown. Jones 5 for 47 and Griffin 3 for 39. Robinson led Grambling with 4 catches for 42 yards. Waters 2 for 25 and Williams 2 for 21. Edwards led Alcorn with 12 tackles. He also had 2.5 tackles for loss. Also, Henderson had 2.5 tackles for loss, but Malachi Bailey led the defense with 3 tackles for loss. He also had 2 sacks on the night. And Henderson also had 2 sacks on the night. Interception went to Edwards. So Samarian Edwards, big game for him. Grambling was led by Andrew Jones with 11 tackles. Blake and Barley each had 2 tackles for loss apiece. And Blake and Barley also had 1 sack apiece. And Blake had an interception. So Grambling still hasn't been able to kind of play a really good game yet this season. When I say a really good game, I mean a game where offensively they've been really solid. They just kind of been making their way through in fits and starts offensively, defensively. This was a game where they forced a couple of turnovers, but weren't able to really get a lot out of those turnovers. So they kind of pushed Grambling in a position where they can't force turnovers as much as they have in that couple game stretch they had, then this offense isn't really getting things done. Alcorn to me is a lot like Southern. I don't think they play pretty football, but they find a way to win. They do enough, and so that gives them another big conference win and another big divisional win. Looking at Saturday's schedule for Week 8. Pine Bluff is at Grambling. That's a 2 p.m. kick. Bethune-Cookman is at Valley. That's a 2 p.m. kick. FAMU is at Jackson State. That's a 2:30 kickoff on ESPNU. So y'all make sure y'all keep it locked there. And Alcorn is at Southern. That's a 6 p.m. kick. Homecoming at Southern, I think, is also homecoming at Grambling. Um, so big weekend there. Let me see a couple more things. I think this might be also for Valley, but I'm not sure. pull up the Valley schedule really quick. Uh, yep, there's also homecoming at Valley. So Bethune-Cookman is homecoming bait for Valley. That's a very interesting thing. This is a game that is a must win for both teams. I think it's gonna be a spirited game. That, honestly, and this is not any sarcasm or anything, but this is a game I'm really looking forward to. Um, because who knows what's gonna happen between two teams who desperately need a win. Um, so it's going to be an interesting matchup there. And of course, the big game of the week is Jackson State and FAMU. That's a game pretty much everybody, no matter what team you're rooting for, has been waiting for all season. So that this is a huge game, it's a huge matchup. Both teams coming off of bye weeks, so it should be a pretty solid game. Taking one final look at the standings before we get up out of here. Jackson State leads the East at 2-0. They're 4-2 overall. They won two. FAMU 1-0 in conference, 3-2 overall. They won one. Alabama State 2-1 in conference, 3-3 overall. They won one. Alabama A&M 1-1 in conference, 3-3 overall. They won one. And Valley and Bethune-Cookman are both 0-2 and both 0-6 overall. So both teams have a 6-game losing streak. Somebody going to snap that streak on Saturday. Alcorn leads the West at 3-0. They're 4-3 overall. They won 3 in a row. Southern 2-0 in conference. 2-0 2-4 overall. They won one. Pine Bluff 1-1 in conference. 2-4 overall. They won one. Texas Southern. Wait, no, Southern's 3-4 because they beat Savannah State they beat Savannah State Prairie View and Texas Southern. So Southern 3-4. They won one. Pine Bluff 1-1, 2-4 overall. They won one. TSU 1-2 in conference, 2-4 overall. They've lost one. Prairie View 1-3 in conference, 2-5 overall. They've lost two, and Grambling is 0-2 in conference, 3-3 overall. They've lost two in a row. So that is the East and West Division standings as we wrap up Week 7. And that's gonna do it for today's show. We will be back on Wednesday with our Week 8 preview. SWAC Smoke live on Thursday, and Week 8 recap on Sunday. So with that being said, man, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC. See well, signing out, and I will catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.